here's an interesting player. A player who's actually just about to be cut from the Denver Broncos is Glasow. Now, he spent most of his career with the Detroit Lions, and a lot of you guys, if you've heard of him, might know him from his time with the Detroit Lions. But he has played left guard, center, right guard, and he's played for Denver and Detroit. Now, he's only 31 years old, which is actually not old at all for an offensive lineman. As always, I will say this a billion times, a billion different videos. Linemen age like fine wine. The older they are, the better usually they are. I mean, the best left tackle in the league is 35 years old. Best right tackle in the league is 33 years old. So, it's one of those things where it's like the opposite of, skill positions, where skill positions, usually the younger the better. Well, I say for the most part. Usually wide receivers, the first couple seasons are not usually the greatest, and then they kind of get into their prime. Well, for offensive linemen, their prime is when they're like 70 years old at this point. So, should Cincinnati think about signing him? Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's going to be very, very dirt cheap, right? And I talked about a video earlier today saying how, Cincy should start going for these one-year prove-it-deal contracts, kind of spin off the narrative that, listen, we're in a Super Bowl window, you come with us, you play with us, you're going to play with Burrow, you're going to look good, and then you're able to go ahead and leave us, go sign a big contract with somebody else, but in the meantime, you're helping us win a Super Bowl, right? You could do this for a couple years, honestly, get a couple Super Bowls stacked up. But at the same time, though, it all depends on the price and the player. Now, problem with him is last season he only played he only started 13 of his 17 games. Did play the whole entire year, but did not only play 13 of them. Now, Denver Broncos last season, we're being honest, was an absolute clown show, right? They were definitely not a real NFL team. They were more or less like a joke of a team. Especially because the whole Russell Wilson situation, Neil Hackett didn't work out, whatever the case, right? Other than last season, the last time he played a full set games, like a whole season, was back when he was a center for Detroit in 2018. He did play 15 games in 2019, but then played 7 games in 2021 and 13 games in 2020. So next thing I want to bring up here, and I always like to bring this up just for reference here, to kind of see how, Pro Football Focus ranks this player. And this is how they rank Glasow. A 59.3 overall. It's not something you want to see. 62.7 pass blocking and 61.6 run blocking. Looking at this, last season he allowed 5 sacks, which is tied for the third most. He also had the third most penalties at 10. And 929 snaps, which is 21st. That's not good in any stretch of imagination. Here it does say that he only played center and right guard. He also played left guard, so it's kind of inaccurate in that aspect. But still, should Cincinnati think about signing him, right? And that's what we're talking about in this video. And if we go and look at his other stats here, I like to kind of look at throughout his, seasons, kind of see, where he was. Maybe he was just in a really bad system in Denver with Neil Hackett, and he was ruining everyone. Well, it looks like overall, his other seasons, other than the last season, he's an overall pretty decent, okay guard/center. He's nothing special. He's nothing to write home about. He's what I call a very good veteran depth piece. Instead of having Max as your backup right guard, maybe you have someone like this as your backup right guard. And that's not a problem. If you're going to make him your backup, I don't have a problem with that. And it is good to have somebody who is versatile on different positions, right? Because last season we saw left tackle went down, right guard went down, right tackle went down. Having someone who's versatile that can move different positions is always a good thing. So if you sign him, or you're even thinking about signing him, you're not signing him as a starter, right? You're signing him as a versatile backup to have. Now, what does a versatile backup mean then? Well, first off, then you're not signing him in a prove-it deal, as I talked about before. You're signing him to a contract that's saying, listen, you're a backup. Could be a starter if things happen correctly. But if that's the case, you can make it a very incentivized contract. And what that means is, instead of making it, okay, 1 year, $5 million, you're a backup, deal with it, you say, we'll give you 1 year for, I don't know, $800,000, $950,000. But we'll put incentives in there. If you play a certain amount of games, you get more money. You get an extra $1 million. You get an extra $2 million. If, let's say, for example, allow 0 sacks and you play a certain amount of games, we'll give you even more money. Right? And you just slowly go down the list there. Now, offensive lineman is a little bit more challenging, especially if you're a backup offensive lineman, because reality-wise, all you're really banking on then is either the main guy gets injured, or the second thing is that the main guy messes up and you take advantage of the situation. I don't like this idea of signing him. He's one of those players where I'm going to talk about because he's an option and he's available. And, we got to talk about every single option available, especially at the offensive line position, right? But if I'm being honest here, I'm going with no. I do not believe Cincinnati should sign him. I think this is a guy who is, a mediocre at best player, needs a lot of work still, and he's 31 years old. You're not going to teach an old dog new tricks, okay? You're just not. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. Cincinnati is not desperate. That's the number one thing I want to take away from free agency in general. Is a lot of, analysts have, this guy could go to Cincinnati, this guy could go, that guy could go. But at the end of the day, this is not a desperate organization, not a desperate team. This is a team who has the best quarterback in the league, who could easily go win a Super Bowl next season, and honestly create a dynasty and win over the next 3-4 years. So this is a very good, directional team right now. So I feel like a lot of analysts, a lot of, people connecting these free agents, they just say, since he needs anybody, they can get. Not really. I mean, Jonah Williams, listen, he's a problem, right? And in order to get rid of him as a problem, you're going to have to package up picks, let's say like maybe a sixth, maybe a fifth and a sixth and a seventh, package that up and trade it to somebody for a 7th round pick to take his contract. That's all you're going to do to get rid of him. Collins, you can cut. Kappa obviously comes back from injury. But at the end of the day, we know the issues on hand. We know the problems right there. But to bring someone in and just put anyone in that situation, or just, as I would call it, put a Band-Aid on the situation, trying to fix like an open wound, it's not going to work. So definitely will say no for this guy, but we will continue to look at other possible free agents. And obviously on the 14th, when free agency does open, we will talk about all the possible free agents that, Cincinnati could be targeting, could be looking at, and could be going after. But this man right here, he's going to get a no from Fantasy Truck Stop. Peace out, guys.